the Happy Scientist podcast. Each episode is designed to make you more focused, more productive, and more satisfied in the lab. You can find us online at bitesizebio.com/happyscientist. Your hosts are Kenneth Vogt, founder of the executive coaching firm Vera Claritas, and Dr. Nick Oswald, PhD, bioscientist, and founder of Bitesize Bio.
Hello and welcome to the Happy Scientist podcast from Bitesize Bio. If you want to become a happier, healthier and more productive scientist, you are in the right place. I am Nick Oswald, the founder of Bitesize Bio, and with me is the driving force of this podcast, Mr. Kenneth Vogt, my friend, mentor and founder of the coaching company Vera Claritas. Today we will be discussing something deep. It's why hope is actually weakening you. Okay, what is that all about, Ken?
Well, first off, I don't want to scare anybody because I know we're all big fans of hope, and it's been hope has been used in a positive way in so many different settings, and I mean it's almost a caricature sometimes. You know, hope was a big part of politics. Hope was a big part of Star Wars. You know, I mean it's something that we've loved all our lives, and we don't notice sometimes, though, that hope actually will weaken us. And that might sound scary at the beginning because you might think, wait a minute, if hope is actually weakening me, that means you're going to tell me to get rid of it, and I don't think I can live without hope. Well, yeah, and so I want to set everybody's mind at ease. I'm not going to make you live without hope. That's not the point of this, and I'm not telling you that hope is bad, but I am telling you that hope alone is going to cause you some problems, and you got to make sure that you don't over-rely on something that has a purpose, but it isn't a cure-all for everything. So I want to start off by describing hope in 3 states. Now this should speak to some scientists out there. You know, you've got your gas, liquid, solid mode of thinking about things. Well, hope can be the same way, but I want to actually approach it from an even more hardcore setting, mathematiks. Math may be the ultimate science. I know that may be heresy to some of you.
Now you're sapping my hope.
Well, think of it this way: if we think of things that can be in a state that's either on or off, but then there's also a state that's just in between. It's neutral or undetermined. Well, hope can be like that. We can be without hope. I mean, absolutely, without hope, and then we act in a certain fashion as a result of that. And I'm not just talking about, you're without hope about your health or your finances. I mean, I'm talking about just in your average day-to-day working routines, you will have times when you're without hope. When you see something, you go, man, that's not going to work. Well, that's being without hope. Now, it's not so awful to recognize that something's not going to work. In fact, that may cause you to take steps to fix the problem or to avoid any potential harm. So, being without hope actually has some value. Now there's the state of you don't have any hope. It's just like, well, I'd like this to work out, but I haven't seen any reason to trust it will work out. On the other hand, I don't see a guaranteed failure either. When you realize you don't know, that is very, very useful. Recognizing that you don't know, that really opens up reality for you. It opens up facts for you. So it is good to know when you're just missing hope. And then there's the final state, the one we're all talking about here, being hopeful. Oh, I really hope this is going to work out. Well, okay, why do you hope it's going to work out? Well, we hope things are going to work out because we see a benefit. We think that if it goes the way I want, things will be great. Okay, that's not necessarily a compelling reason to expect something will work out, though. Just because it would be good for you to work out doesn't make it work out. So you have to recognize when you're doing that when you're merely hoping. when hoping is wishing. I wish that it would turn out a certain way. It's a fantasy. It's just held out there. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be great if, wouldn't the world be wonderful if this happened this way? Or wouldn't my life be easier if this happened? Or wouldn't this experiment, if this experiment would just do what I want it to do, it would be so much better. And then it would allow us to move forward on this, and this. Okay. Knowing that that's the case, that's when you really have to be careful. You got to make sure you don't get caught up in only seeing wishful thinking. Now, I don't want to turn you away from the idea that you can create positive outcomes, because of course you can. But you create positive outcomes by the actions you take and the thinking that you do about it, that the effort that you put into making sure that you're doing things that will get a positive outcome. Now, the setting in which we hope matters too, because sometimes it's just hope. I just hope this light turns green soon. I just hope Grandma gets better. I just hope that I get this grant. They're different things. So I'll use the example of the recent coronavirus vaccines. People hoped in a vaccine, and boy, was there a lot of hope going on out there. And that hope, by the way, was a positive impactor. It motivated a rapid development schedule that had never been done before for anything like this. And then it's not just about it got developed, but then it had to be developed en masse. Well, they were able to make that head into motion. Now they're developing, getting it out to the public. That had to take place. All of these things happened in different contexts, though, for different people. If you're a member of the public, the perspective of the public, like me, I'm not a bioscientist. I'm not a vaccine developer. I don't have anything to do with any of that stuff. So my hope was a layman's hope. Wow, I sure hope they work this out. I sure hope they can manufacture enough of it. I sure hope they can distribute it. There's a lot of, it's out there. It's not really my problem and not really something in my control. My kind of hope in this scenario was pretty much about fantasy. I didn't help. I didn't hurt, but I couldn't impact it. I didn't have anything much to do with it. Now, for most of you that are on the call, and I think I could put Nick in this category, you came from a perspective of an educated bioscientist. You still weren't involved in the actual development, but at least you knew what it would take, and you knew what was going on. So maybe you kept yourself informed. And so you had a more educated approach to that hope. Now, your hope was still there. You still would like to see a benefit for mankind. You still would like to see it be successful. You would still like it to see it be done properly. You didn't want to see a poor vaccine or a dangerous vaccine. So your hope is a little different than mine as just a general person in the public. And then for some of you, there may be a few of you who actually were involved in development. And so your perspective on it was totally different. Now, your hope was that you could do something that you'd never done before. Or you could do something more quickly than you'd ever done it before. You could do something at a scale you'd never done it before. So there were still unknowns involved, but there were a lot of knowns, because you do know how to develop a vaccine. You know what the process has to be. You knew what the methodologies were. You knew what kind of approaches to take. And so your hope was tempered by your personal engagement, your personal knowledge, and the things that you could actually do to take it forward. Now, if you had the kind of hope, you as a vaccine developer had the kind of hope that I had, it had been a disaster. You wouldn't have taken the steps necessary. You wouldn't have put in the protections and the limits that you needed to get things done properly. You wouldn't have supplied yourself right. You wouldn't have got up to speed on the things you need to be up to speed on. And that's what I'm talking about, where where I'm saying that hope can actually weaken you, because it will take away from you things that you really need. So let's talk about some of the things you really need in a hopeful situation. First off, you can't hope instead of being educated about something. Now, I'm not just talking about formal education. It's not just getting your degree, for instance, but it's availing yourself of available knowledge. There may be things out there that are known already, basically steps that have been taken in the direction of the thing that you are hopeful about, that if you don't bother to learn about that, well, now you're going to have to reinvent the wheel. That's the best case scenario. Or you're gonna blunder on not knowing some things that could have made it easier, or not knowing some things that were already learned that could stop you from being successful. So I'm not telling you not to be hopeful, but in the moment, make sure that you're also educated about what it is you've got going on, so that that hope doesn't get in your way. You can use that hope as kind of an emotional buoy, but that's all it's there for. It doesn't replace education. Another thing that hope doesn't replace is a plan. Now, you don't always have to have a perfect plan, but if you have no plan, if you're just shooting from the hip, how often does that work out? If you're doing something important and something that has depth to it. Now, I'm not saying that you can't wing it sometimes, and sometimes winging it's all that's necessary. But in the cases where hope is a factor, chances are it's bigger than that. So chances are you need to have a plan. So you've got to do your part there. And if you allow hope to blind you to the fact that you have no plan, then you're only going to hurt yourself. Another thing is having hope instead of preparation. You remember there's this old adage that says, if you have 6 hours to chop down a tree, spend the first 5 hours sharpening your saw. Do what needs to be done in advance of what it is you're working on. And again, if you're hopeful about something, it's probably big enough that it needs some preparation. So don't let hope get in the way of preparation. And then finally, I'll say, don't let hope get in the way of effort. There is a proverb. Actually, a proverb from the book of Proverbs in the Bible that says, prepare your work out of doors and make it ready for yourself in the field. It only makes sense. If you don't prepare for the thing that you need to do, how likely are you to succeed at it? And in fact, a lack of preparation can kill a plan. It can kill your education that you've already put into it. It really can stand in the way of many things. Pardon me. And if you don't make the effort, so what good is preparation if you don't do anything, or you don't? What good is a plan if you don't put in the effort? What good is education if you don't put in the effort? So all of those things need to be there, and don't allow hope to stop you from doing the parts that are still necessary. Now, we've all had situations where there was something brand new that pops up, and oh boy, we really are excited. Somebody gets a new idea. We could develop a vaccine based on RNA. That's kind of a new idea. Well, and everybody got excited. Yes, but if they hadn't educated themselves, if they hadn't gotten plans, if they hadn't prepared, if they hadn't made the effort, we'd still be waiting for a vaccine. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about now. So I've monologued along there for a while. Nick, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I was just writing some stuff down here as you were saying that. So I have to admit, in the beginning, I was kind of wondering where you were going to go with this, but I can see what you mean now. I think if we were going to put it in scientific terms, then if you want an outcome, or for an outcome to happen, or to propel yourself to an outcome, hope is necessary, but it's not sufficient. That's what you would say in biological terms. And so hope on its own, you need it because that's the fuel. It gives you motivation. It opens up possibilities. It helps to inspire other people. It sets out the vision and all that sort of stuff. But if you don't add to that hope those things that you laid out there, education, a plan, preparation, and effort, then the hope can actually be a blinder. It can actually stop you from stop the movement from happening. Because one other thing that occurred to me was that if you substitute the word hope for the word confidence, then that kind of, for me, that's a bit easier to digest why overconfidence could actually stop you from moving forward, because you don't do any of the necessary background or work that's in front of you to make it happen. Is that kind of where you're going?
Oh yeah, I like that the way you're presenting that. So confidence becomes hope plus potentially arrogance, and I want to point out that arrogance can actually be useful in science. If you really truly do know what you're doing, you can be bold in moving forward. But if it stops there, if it's just a fantasy, I think I'm all that, I think I know better than anybody else. Once you think you know everything, you stopped learning. You don't know anything at that point. And if you think you know better than everyone else, then you've lost the access of everyone else's knowledge and abilities.
So to cycle back to that, the biological definition or the necessary and sufficient definition of this, it's that hope on its own is necessary, but to drive an outcome. But what you need is hope plus what you need for full sufficiency is hope plus education plus plan plus preparation plus effort. But if you have all of those other things, education, plan, preparation, and effort, but you don't have hope, then you're unlikely to do it either because you won't have the motivation.
Right. Hopelessness will lead to abdication. It is. You'll just go, yeah, but what can we do? Sure, I can take all these steps, but why bother? Because it won't work out. That's what hopelessness looks like.
Yeah. I mean, to go back to your idea of, or your example rather, of the COVID vaccine, then it was a mammoth operation to do this, and a lot of people in the scientific community poured cold water on the idea that we could even do it, that it could even be done, and especially in that time scale. But enough people apparently had hope enough and to drive it, we did have all of the education, plan, preparation, and effort all in us. But if we'd chosen not to have hope, then the thing would never have happened.
Exactly. So what happened there? How did they do it better than just hope that it worked out? Well, what they did is they had intention. Intention. That is, there's an outcome we are shooting for. We're not just wishing that outcome would happen, but that's our target. We're moving toward that. And intention it's a very clean word in my mind. It doesn't have the emotional weakness of just naked hope, but it also doesn't have the emotional weakness of arrogance. It's like, no, it's like you talked about confidence earlier. I can see where we're headed. I get where we need to go. And even if you don't know every step along the way, you can see, well, I know some steps, and you can take those. And if you take those steps, well, it moves you forward. So intention creates that action, and it starts to chart your course. And then once you're in motion, it helps improve your motivation because you're seeing progress. You can do things, and it starts to clarify things. It starts to take problems out of the way. It starts to offer up solutions. So intention is a very powerful thing, and we'll certainly talk about intention again. But intention is the antidote for naked hope. Now, you don't have to have hope go away to have intention. In fact, hope can work very well with intention, but hope will never overwhelm intention. Intention is definitely going to be the leader in that comparison.
And so, what would you say? Let's put together a practical application of this. Let's say so you have someone who is in grad school. They are first year of studying for their PhD, and they hope they can get a PhD. They're very hopeful that they can do it, and that hope and the promise of the prize at the end is driving them. What would you say? What else would you say they have to look at to make sure that they don't allow that hope to kind of to just be all that's there and to obfuscate? Yes.
Well, the first is, if you're in a PhD program, congratulations, you're in a program that gets that result. Well, you have access now to education. There's available knowledge there. You've got mentors available. You've got your, what do you call the person that helps you?
Bitesize Bio.
I meant in your PhD program, but yes, you got Bitesize Bio too.
You got your supervisor.
Yeah, you've got a supervisor. You probably have fellow students that have some of them have already traversed some of the road you need to traverse. You've got people you can lean on. You've got resources that you have access to. So use them. The next thing is, if you've got an advisor there, the advisor is probably helping you have a plan, because I don't know how the rest of you would look at it. I know I'd look at it like, wow, getting from here to PhD, that looks like a multifaceted road. I think there's a bunch of things I'm going to have to do, and I need to know which things to do and in which order. And so make sure you call on those who are there to advise you to get that plan together so you know what's next. And then on top of that, of course, once you're engaged in your plan, there's going to be steps that are going to require preparation. Some of them are going to mean, okay, I need to study up on this. I need to get skilled in these particular methods. Which again, that's a great place to go to Bitesize Bio for. Learn how to do the things you need to do, but also prepare yourself. And it may be a matter of preparing the ground too. Maybe just preparation for experiments is a big deal in your world. Making sure you have everything you need, making sure you have, the supplies and equipment and the time to do something properly. That's all part of what goes into preparation. And then finally, do the work. Get in there and do what has to be done. It's been done before. Humans do it all the time. It doesn't take superhuman effort. You can do it. It's been done. You can do it too.
Yep. So basically, you have to be remain aware of these other things that are equally as important as hope.
Sure.
And make sure that you're addressing all of that stuff. And I mean, I know I can think of a couple of situations, especially in presentations, where I've kind of winged it and kind of thought, hopefully this will be all right. Famous last words, and not done the preparation. And it's not been great, and
right.
And yeah, so that's I can see where that's going. But if you, especially regardless of what the goal is, you need to make sure that hope isn't blinding you to these other things, I guess.
Right, and you got to have self-awareness. So it's a matter of sometimes, just because you're confident in yourself, don't be hopeful that I know what I need to know. Make sure you know what you need to know. If there's more knowledge you need, make sure that you know where the gaps are. If you need to have a plan, make sure you have one. And make sure that plan has been examined, that it's been vetted, that it's good enough. Because it may be, somebody gives you, maybe you're advised to have a very complicated plan, and maybe you feel like I don't need that. And it may be true, you may not. But have you actually examined the plan you have? Is it good enough? And then, again, preparation is, again, awareness thing, knowing what am I really prepared to do. And it's tough when you first step onto stage and then are asking yourself that question, like, well, am I prepared for this or not? And then, of course, effort kind of shows itself. If you're not making proper effort, it's much better for you to notice that you're not making the effort yet than to wait for somebody else to notice it. And especially if it's somebody else who is going to be judging your performance. So, look at yourself first and be aware of whether or not am I bringing my best game right now? Am I bringing a good enough game right now? And I'm not talking about getting worried about am I good enough? I mean, come on, this needs to happen. Is what I'm doing good enough to get that? That's the issue. It's not a personal thing. It's not a matter of self-judgment, but it's a matter of, okay, did I stay up too late, and am I too tired to do what I need to do? Did I not get everything together that I need to accomplish this task? Be aware of what effort you've made.
Okay. And so the crossover into intention. So what would you say so you said that intention is a cleaner way to look at this than hope, or I guess it's more rounded, isn't it? And is that, so would you say kind of intention is kind of hope plus education plus plan plus preparation plus effort plus whatever else?
Yeah, in fact, that's a very good way of looking at it. Intention is not without hope, but it's definitely not without those other four things we mentioned. Education, plan, preparation, and effort. Attention will have that. And an intention, even if when you first establish an intention, you may not have those things, but intention will make you go get those things. It'll move you to do what needs to be done, and to look clearly at what's in front of you and to see where the holes are.
It's interesting. It strikes me that under in that equation you would add intention includes responsibility, taking responsibility as well, because you can hope for something without taking responsibility. If you don't take responsibility, you're not going to do all of that other stuff.
Exactly. I hoped for a vaccine. I didn't do a thing.
Oh, you got it. That was quite good. Well done.
Well, lucky me, but there was no guarantee, was there?
No. No. Okay. I think that's a really interesting way to look at things, actually. And in the show notes, which are available on this is episode 27 of the podcast. If you go to bitesizebio.com/The Happy Scientist and look at episode 27, then you'll find the show notes will lay out the stuff that Ken has talked about here. I think it's a really good way to look at it, regardless of what the next, what you're hoping for the next in life. I think it's a really good formula to look at yourself and see whether there are any gaps in how you're approaching things, because that can really give you a way to give yourself a better chance of getting the results you want. Exactly.
And by the way, Nick is hoping this will be 27. I think it's going to be 28, but we'll see.
You're right. We talked about that before. Yeah. Oh, jeez. I shouldn't just hope that I know what the episode number is going to be. I should actually make sure that I know before I start talking about these.
To be fair, folks, Nick is a scientist. He's not a mathematician.
That's true. But I should be able to count to 28. So yeah. Okay. So this is episode 28. So that's where you'll get the show notes from. So I think, is there anything else you want to say on this, Ken?
Nope, that's a wrap.
Okay, so we'll just direct people to the show notes, as I said there, and to facebook.com/The Happy Scientist Club if you want to drop us a question or get more resources that we'll be dropping in there over time. And finally, to remind you that if you haven't looked at episodes 1 to 9 already, if you go and have a look at those, it has some foundational principles that I would highly recommend. There are some ideas that Ken has synthesized over the years and can provide really good frameworks for you to get results that you're looking for. So I think we'll wrap up for today. Thank you, Ken, and thanks everyone for listening.
The Happy Scientist is brought to you by Bitesize Bio, your mentor in the lab. Bitesize Bio features thousands of articles and webinars contributed by hundreds of PhD scientists and scientific companies who freely offer their hard-won wisdom and solutions to the Bitesize Bio community.